Real talk.
Headlines have become sickening. They become poisonous.
Dissecting headlines.
Defying state orders. Sheriff Bianco not enforcing what the governor is saying.
Dialed in with decision makers.
Clarify what you actually meant.
Get the answers you need.
At the beginning of this, we were told, don't wear a mask. Is this really helping?
Expect a different kind of newscast. Fox 11 News Special Report. Weeknights at 7.
Hello, everyone. It's a dose of Dr. Drew.
Indeed it is. Hi, everybody. Hey, Susan, remember I was complaining about these pictures inside of pictures inside of pictures? Well, that's what's showing up on the Twitter. And so,
oh, really?
yeah, so when you pushed out that promo, it was like Fox 11, Fox 11, Fox 11.
Well, we may have to start it all over again. I don't know what's going on.
That's what I see every time. I think it's been going out every time. I just noticed it. Hi, everybody. Which camera am I looking at too, Susan? We're gonna...
The little one.
This little one here. Okay, great.
Let me look and see what's going on.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it very, very, very much. Just a little quick COVID news before we go to my buddy Tyrus. Really good study just came out in New England Journal of Medicine. I got it as an email literally 5 minutes ago, and it shows fairly conclusively, it's a good study, that hydroxychloroquine is not useful as a prophylactic agent, meaning as something, it's actually post-exposure prophylaxis. In other words, if you've been exposed to somebody in a high-risk situation and you take hydroxychloroquine, it certainly doesn't hurt you, but it doesn't seem to prevent you from getting the infection. Now, this was a study without zinc, but it's highly suggestive that this is probably not going to bear fruit as a protective agent. Let's bring my buddy in, Tyrus. Hey, man, how are you?
Yeah, but doesn't it help the zinc get in?
It does, and so the zinc might have a better outcome.
Sorry, Tyrus.
But again, I had a suspicion all along that it was not going to be a good prophylactic agent. This is evidence that that's the case. So okay. I'm gonna say probably not good as a prophylactic agent. Hey, Tyrus, talk to me about that wonderful tank behind you. It's crystal blue. It's spectacular. What's going on back there?
That looks good.
Well, my fourth giant tank is finally finished. 325 gallons of just pure joy.
Is this one ocean? Is this a warm water, seawater?
No, this is South American cichlids and fresh water. But my filtration system is like most people would have like one big filter on here. I have four.
Wow.
Soothing sound you hear is running water, and all of my tanks look like that. They're all crystal clear, so I have lots of happy fish. So
behind you, there's some extraordinary looking thing with an orange fin underneath it. What is that? What are you talking about?
Let's see here. These are red devils. Those are red hooks.
I don't see him. He almost looked like an eel. He had a sort of an eel quality.
Oh, iguanas.
They're
up there.
Not those. No, something else weird. I said, all right, maybe it was just a camera angle or something. Beautiful. Well done, man.
Yeah, it's a ridiculously fun hobby. It can break your heart.
And your bank. And your bank.
Yeah. Really have to.
But if they die, it's sad.
Well, if anything dies, it's sad. I mean,
is that what breaks your heart, or you just have if the tank doesn't work correctly?
When one of my prize fish dies, I'm typically in a bad mood for a whole day, and I blame myself, and I look at the water, and but it is like with any pet, it is a lot of work, and people don't realize you just don't throw water in a tank, especially nowadays. It's sad that our faucet water will literally kill a fish in seconds.
Wow.
They cannot live in tap water. It's basically like putting them in acid.
What kind of water do you put the fish in? How do you get it?
So you have to, what they call is cycling it. So you need good bacteria. And it typically takes about 2 weeks to cycle a tank to make it safe for fish to breathe and swim in.
Do you start with tap? Do you start with tap water?
You start with tap, and you put a lot of chemicals in to kill all the ammonia and all the terrible things that are in the water. But I cheat because I have 3 other big tanks, so I took two of the filters off of one, switched them out, so the good gooey bacteria I needed to kill the water was set up. So my switch time for this, my cycle time for this tank was only 2 days because of the size of my filters, and then I had good bio to turn the water in, so they had good enzymes and stuff like that to swim in and be nice and healthy.
The fish, the chat people are asking whether or not you have salt water and fresh water, or just fresh water.
I have a salt tank as well. My salt tank, I have a orange shark, a cat shack, a couple moray eels, and some sailfins. I've had that for a while. Same thing, crystal clear. I use trickle filters or sumps, and I use canister filters. So I use a combination of things to create an environment. So, and I've had my shark for over 6 years.
Wow.
Typically, in the fish hobby, sharks don't typically do well over time, but mine's big and fat. But he has a special diet. He only eats shrimp from Fresh Market, and he's
happy.
Actually, to the point where I have to think about getting him a bigger tank because he's growing so much. But yeah, it for me is my only concern about my fish tanks is that it is my hobby, it is my healthy outlet, but it can become a compulsion.
Of course.
Now, I was in my sickness, my depression, my self-hate, I would compulse in other people, women, and food. So when I'm stressed out now, I seem to dig more into my fish tanks, although as my therapist would say, it's still a healthy outlet and he likes that better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can't turn this into a compulsion where I'm getting the same unhealthy benefits from something that makes me feel good.
This does not have that kind of progressive quality to it, though. I mean, you could overdo it, but it doesn't feel to me like something that can really progress. So that's the big issue. I mean, you may have to go, whoa, I got to pull back, or I'm spending too much money, or have some consequence. Right. But I bet you will pull back from consequences. That's my bet on this, because that's it's not like you're going to be a wholly different entity or person, with you getting better. You're just going to be, aspects of your personality or your biology are going to have healthier expressions. They're not going to have the dysfunction is going to go away. The way it bothers you is the consequences are going to go away. That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like no more booty pics. It's fish pics from different men all over the States. I get pictures of blood sevens and frontosas and flower heads, and it's like it's amazing how weird it is when you're doing something healthy and you have moments of, I used to collect people like this, and and it's a lot better because no one's gonna break into your phone and go, what the hell are all these cichlids doing on here? So
this is a good sign. You sleep better at night, don't you?
Yeah, you really do. You really do. But it's when you're in wellness and you look at things, you try to look at things for what they are. And when you are able to tell yourself, hey, you know what? Make sure this stays a good thing for you, and this doesn't become like an escape and you don't deal with it.
Right. And you don't. And there is a potential for hoarding, right? You can start. That's the compulsive part. Yeah.
Could become a fish hoarder.
Yeah. Which is whenever you collect, that's sort of the hoarding is the unhealthy manifestation of collecting, right? And if you're a collector, and has OCD kind of qualities. I'm kind of a collector. I could easily see how that can happen if you're just into it all the time.
Well, the one thing about being there's a difference between being a collector and a hoarder. A hoarder doesn't necessarily care about the well-being of the things they're collecting.
Sure.
They kind of throw them all together. I think if I was fish hoarding, I wouldn't lose my mind about, the fish are growing. I'm concerned with their space, their diet. They're not chewing on each other, so I have to get a bigger tank because as my fish grow, they grow. So I'm still conscious of keeping my fish at their best. Whereas when you watch a hoarder, like say a hoarder who keeps cats and dogs. The dogs and cats are in horrible condition.
Right.
And a lot of times die in the cage they keep them in, because it's not really about the animal. It's about their issue and their sickness.
Right.
The animal's secondary.
And I always look at that as that's the sign of how not right the person is that's hoarding, right? I mean, they're not paying attention. They can't brush their own teeth, let alone take care of an animal. So, yeah,
I was forced at gunpoint to watch hoarders, and I watched. And a lot of times I'll see, especially whenever I see anybody who collects like action figures and stuff like that, because I have a pretty ridiculous collection of Godzillas and my favorite toys as a kid. But it was always kind of organized, and but some of the things they say ring a bell when I hear the guy go, "I bought every toy I could never have as a kid." I'm like, damn it, I thought that. Oh shit, I'm a hoarder. Like,
right.
Like you watch very closely, but I'm like, but I never filled my bathroom with Godzillas.
Right. Right. You never really went over the top.
Yeah, you have one though.
I just don't. I might have a room that's designated from my collectors, but I like to show them off. Like, hey guys, check out my Godzillas. Not walk in a room and stepping all over them. So but I think now more than ever, everyone should really be looking in the mirror at their own mental health as the toll of this pandemic and this, more importantly, this division. And I'm saying that, yes, I feel the division in this country and the toxicity of how we treat each other is becoming more dangerous than the actual virus that we're all dealing with.
I agree with you. How is it let's go down this rabbit hole, because I think it's an important thing to talk about. How is it affecting you?
I find it in my own relationship, I find it very hard to communicate when I'm frustrated now.
Because
I feel, it's almost like that you're trapped in a log cabin kind of a thing.
Right.
Where and I'm screwed anyways, because anytime I have a disagreement, my past is brought up. Any behavior that I bring up, my past is, so I can't argue. I can't say I don't like this behaviors, I don't like the things I'm seeing. Well, you're the one who did this, and I don't really think what I did a year ago is really pertinent to right now, but that's the deflection, and so when I get that way, I start to shut down. There's no point in even discussing this stuff.
Yeah, that's not a good. So the move is something's happening you want to address. There's defensive pushback that shuts you down, and that's the end of that. And shutdown is not a great place for you. It's not a healthy place for you to be.
No, it's not. And the thing for me is that in the wellness, I want to address everything.
Yeah.
If something happens, I want to deal with it. I don't want to put it on the bookshelf.
Right.
I don't want to simmer on it. I want to say, I don't like the way this went down. How do we fix it? So it's fun. And I see that a lot of debates and stuff, which I really try to avoid now, especially with work and TV and stuff. I just don't see the point in debates anymore, because no one's taking on any new ideas. You tell me the last time on TV you've seen two people on a debate and the goal wasn't to insult the other person, look stupid, not saying, you know what, I see where you're coming from, I disagree, but I do agree here. People would lose their mind. They just don't, it's not even opinion anymore. Everyone's fact is based on feeling. Right. So we really can't get anything accomplished. And I'm thinking my line of work is it's just unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And are you getting a lot of social media stuff?
No, you know what? I can honestly say I never have gotten a lot of attacks. I get a few, but not in the mass sort. And I typically end them all with sign a waiver, and wherever you want to meet up, we can settle this.
Good. That's probably why you get less of it.
But I feel, and I also, here's another thing. I will not engage. Somebody says something smart, I might hit back. And then when it starts getting like ridiculous, I'll just block them, and just move on.
Yeah, blocking is not a bad strategy. I just worry by blocking you end up in a silo, though. You know what I mean? I kind of want to hear other people's points of view. It's just the hostility, the aggression is just
when somebody starts with an ignorant insult, you really aren't going to learn anything from that person, Dr.
Probably
Drew.
true. Probably true.
And all they want, their whole goal that day was to get you out of your zone and to get you to feed in. And nobody, and I literally, as I sit here and preach this, can tell you that there'll be days when somebody will pick the wrong day. And I'm like, let's go. And that particular day with me was this Monday. I'm in the gym, I'm working out, and I was deadlifting, and I was working on some stuff. And I typically post one picture of my training, and I basically it was like a tough love kind of statement. Like, if you're eating like shit, if you're skipping reps. The person in the mirror you have to be brutally honest with. And you can't do things for other people. You have to do them for yourself. And if you do that, you're better for other people. So basically get your effing stuff together and work hard. Be the best you can be.
This was you talking to you.
Me talking to me.
Yeah.
And I cuss at myself.
Yeah.
So that's just keeping it real. And some guy wrote, I was a former trainer and you need to bend your knees more on your deadlift. He picked the wrong day. Normally, I would leave it alone.
And by the way, I saw that picture. You were deep in that into that lift.
Yes. And I said, well, I'm 6'8", and my deadlift, I generate all my momentum from my hips to where I don't need to bend knees or elbows, and that's typically where all the injuries come from. Is guys try to lift with their knees, which causes like a swing with their back and their back. But when you power with your hips, you don't have those issues. And I said, and that's probably why you're a former trainer with all 5 L's, all due respect. I just, it was, I said, because I said with all due respect at the end of it, we're good. But and then I'm telling people to ignore it. So it is difficult. And sometimes it's not the person who's calling you a racial slur or whatever the hell they're trying to get you. It's somebody who's just critiquing. I hate the little, but there's a hole in that. I don't like that. And I just don't like that. When they see my fish tanks, they're like, oh, well, I saw a water spot in the bottom of the tank. That's the person that I want to blow up, opposed to the person who's like trying to attack my ethnicity or like, how could you work at Fox News or something? Like, how could I work? I get a paycheck and they don't tell me what to say. So it's actually pretty cool for me. But, it's difficult. I know, Dr. Drew, you've got to have days where somebody says something and it's just go to.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the paycheck thing, because people have trouble differentiating who on a news outlet gets paid and who doesn't get paid. If somebody is a host, is a regular co-host, or a, what do they call them, correspondent, they get paid.
Or contributor.
Contributor. Guests do not get paid. People like me do not get paid. And guests don't get anything. What's that?
Guests get exposure.
Yeah, guests get a chance to talk about their books or some important. I was always going on to talk about the homelessness, things like that. But that went down in history as selling out to Fox News for a paycheck that I did not receive.
But again, I always go back to this. You cannot argue with ignorant. They'll just you do it for a paycheck. And I would always like to ask, so what do you do for a paycheck? Let's say they work at McDonald's. So you give processed food to people. So you're a sellout, right? You're not living by your life and your standards. People do things for a paycheck, but we live in a different time now. You're not selling out your community or the Underground Railroad working for a news outlet that you are allowed to be your own person. Anything anyone puts out on the news is not Fox News. You don't get a talking point bulletin every Monday from Rupert saying, here's what we're working on this week, kids. Anybody who goes on a platform to speak is speaking from their mind or what they have agreed upon with their writer or whatever their situation is. And there are people who just say things to say things, and there are people who say things for shock value and try to get attention and try to get money. And, and if you're controversial, you get booked more. There are people that take that high road, but, you'd be surprised how little it is that actually go that route.
Yeah, it's interesting. This idea of news organizations telling people what to say. It's funny. I was at CNN, HLN for many years. No one ever told me what to say. I was sort of aware there was kind of a. I knew what some people's views were. Let's put it that way. But no one ever influenced me until I said something that was sort of contrary. It caused a little shitstorm, and then I was cut off for good, prevented from coming on the air. Period. And I've never, no one ever at Fox News has ever suggested anything for me to talk about.
Well, I always find it interesting because I always I do see that a lot and I'm not bashing CNN. I don't work there. I don't know the people there. So I cannot judge them. But I will say I do notice that when somebody does not fall in line with the other programs, they tend to not exist anymore. And at Fox News, I always look to Juan Williams as the light. I could not have more respect for a man who loves his job, who goes to work every day knowing he's going to get booed, knowing he's going to sit at a table with 4 people who disagree with him the moment he walks in the door.
Yeah.
And this man shows up to work every day. The stuff that is said about him online, that he is attacked by Fox News viewers, is sad at times. And I'm always going there. And whenever I'm on the 5, I always start with all due respect, or how much I respect I have for you. And I say I differ. I always treat him with such a high level of respect because I think the fact that he goes to work every day, shows up, does his job, and is really unweathered. I mean, he's the most positive guy I know. Like, you never see him in the hallway with a miserable look on his face. And for that, I only see that at Fox News. I see the guys, myself, I'm a middle of the road guy. I wear my hat backwards. I don't wear a damn suit. Don't like them. Don't like the fit. I hate slacks. Not wearing them. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
And no one has ever pulled me aside going, hey, Tyrus, you need to get your suit and lose that hat. And we really need you to push the conservative agenda. No one does that. But it's convenient when you disagree with somebody or want to disagree, because they usually don't listen, to attack them. And the easiest thing to do is say that they're a sellout or they're being told what to say, because I think some people are scared of people who actually believe what they say and to say what they believe, because they can't or they won't. And they just get caught up with sound bites. And the more I talk about it, the more I hate saying this, but we have a lot of dumb, spoiled people in America.
Let's get back to that, because that's the rabbit hole we were going down, which is I've noticed that people seem to want a return of reasonable and rational. I feel like that, and actual dialogue, discourse. How do we get that back? How do we? Because that sort of horse is well out of the barn at this point.
Yeah. Well, for one, it takes you doing it, and I make a point of, even when I don't necessarily, like Don Lemon, perfect example. Don Lemon had the interview with Terry Crews.
Yeah.
And I was asked to speak about my opinion on what Don Lemon said, where he felt that Black Lives Matters should only be about police brutality with my brothers. And Terry Crews felt differently. He felt that it should also include how we treat ourselves as a culture. And Don, I said that I agreed with him in principle in the beginning, but I disagreed with him in the sense that things evolve. And Black Lives Matters has become many different things. And you can literally support one part about it and not like the other part about it. Like, I don't particularly care for the politics of Black Lives Matter, but the message on police brutality and saying that Black Lives Matters in terms of being treated with dignity and respect, as everyone should be, especially by law enforcement. I'm with that 110%. Now, I didn't bash him because I disagreed with him. And the putback I got from that from people who don't listen was, how dare you agree with Don Lemon? You betrayed us.
Who'd you betray?
And I'm literally thinking to myself, please don't tell the emperor. I don't want to be the Death Star captain who looks at the screen and starts grabbing his throat and being choked out because I failed to find the Millennium Falcon. It's just the ridiculousness of the fact that because they're the enemy, which is ignorant, that we cannot agree with them on some things or necessarily mention their name without bashing.
Right. Well, this is the general. This is the state of affairs now, right? Where things are seen as enemy and ally, signaling, and everything is politicized. I wrote a paper about hydroxychloroquine recently. I think I'm going to put up on the website, where I'm just so astonished that my prescribing isn't being interfered with by anybody. You know what I mean? Other than my professional colleagues or my professional organization, they have no.
Doesn't agree with you. There's the right way to do that. He then publishes the papers of his findings,
or we just discuss it, or if I'm really out of line, I get referred to a disciplinary committee at the hospital, whatever. But that is not. I was thinking about it this way. There are all kinds of things that doctors prescribe because it's cheap. We understand the physiology. We've never seen any real untoward effect, and there aren't yet any randomized placebo-controlled studies. That is a common behavior amongst physicians. And that's for those that want to use hydroxychloroquine, that's sort of what their reasoning is until proper studies are out to really let them know what's going on. It's increasingly clear from my perspective, shouldn't be used in hospitalized patients. Probably doesn't seem to be very effective for post-exposure prophylaxis. And whether it works early in viral replication of somebody who's actually infected, we'll see. We'll see.
An example of doing it the right way, I believe it's the governor of Mississippi, who was adamant about not wearing masks.
Yeah.
And he did the relevance of it. And he was against it. He then looked at the science. He talked with his family. And he had an about face. And he had the greatest line. He said, I am not arrogant enough to not be able to make an about face based off the right information. And I don't understand why that didn't get more attention. Because the Georgia governor gets all the attention because he continues to fight it because it's a political issue where the governor of Mississippi did not make it political. He showed a picture of his daughter, had a sign on her door that says, "Welcome without a mask."
Yep.
And I thought the humanity of that, I thought was exceptional, but he was the adult in the room. And you can't attack him. It's the same thing with the Prime Minister of England, Boris Johnson. He said that he was overweight.
Yep. And
he was overweight. It was a contributing factor to how severe the COVID virus was to him. So he had to lose weight. He said, I was fat.
Yeah.
And it hurt me with COVID.
Well, and he realized that this is something that's not uncommon. It's affecting the national health care insurance they have, and they need to do something about it. So good for him. Good for him.
Put it to himself. And immediately there was people on our news media talking about fat shaming. And I thought to myself, if you are okay, and this is where we always go back to qualified immunity. I wish reporters were responsible for it too. Wish anybody gets in front of that mic and runs their mouth. Because when it comes to science and health issues, unless you're an expert, you really shouldn't talk.
The journalists really have shown how incompetent they are this time around. Really bad stuff.
It's wrong. My 600-pound life or my beautiful, huge life, they're at risk.
Yeah.
When we see the children that have passed because of COVID, most of them, with a few exceptions, have been overweight. Mm-hmm. And nobody will discuss it.
I know.
Nobody will say, not only do we be wearing a mask.
Except for us.
It's a major risk factor. It's a major risk factor for complications, for sure.
And I had weight. I played ball. I had weight issues in ball. I had weight issues in WWE. I was always cutting weight. I was always cruising. I could look like $1 million, and then I could eat, and not train for a couple weeks, and I'd gain weight. So during this thing, I was dedicated to losing weight because I knew that gave me a much better chance. And I have a lot of muscle, and I'm a healthy guy, and those type of things. But I was adamant that I have to lose weight to give myself the best fighting chance. But if I went on Instagram or the show saying, "Hey, America, we're fat and we're spoiled, and we all need to start dieting and thinking right. Use this time not only to social distance from the snacks. Stay away from the drive-through. You know, all of a sudden you're a fat shamer, and you could possibly be canceled because fat is beautiful. It's not beautiful in the hospital bed. It's not beautiful when is laying on your chest and the ventilator, and it's hard to breathe because of your girth. It's not beautiful.
That's not it's also the adipose creates an inflammatory process, and that inflammation is already underway when you get COVID, and for whatever reason we don't fully understand, really takes off in people with a lot of adipose.
Seed oils too.
And seed oils. You're absolutely correct. So we want to stay with the tallow and butter, everybody. But I want to drill into, there's a couple comments caught my eye on the chat. Oh, there's all the safe oils versus the not safe oils. And Kate Shanahan, yeah, Dr. Kate has
I always keep this just in case you talk about it.
She has staked her reputation on the fact that
There's my phone. Let me go.
That this could really significantly reduce complications of COVID if you avoid the seed oils. But there's a couple. I want to drill in what's up in people's heads, and so I've got a couple of comments on the chat stream that I just want to drill into a little bit, just as an example. So I was reminded to talk about my opinion about doctors who use hydrochloroquine because it was inexpensive. We understand inexpensive, understood the physiology, and some reports that it works before we get the randomized placebo-controlled trials, much as we do with several medicines like Synthroid, digoxin, many medicines. For many decades we did that. And so they're waiting for the studies. So here's somebody's response. Kimberly says, "You're really searching for validation on this subject? Tyrus isn't a doctor." I mean, first of all, where did that thinking come from? That's a thought that's so bizarre. And secondly, then thinks, I'm going to go talk to the person who I thought I heard do something and give them a piece of my mind. What is that?
What did I prescribe?
No, you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. I didn't do anything.
Doctor of style.
No. You are a doctor of cool. Yeah. And then immediately another one. Robin Arena says, "Drew, you're a sellout." And by the way, yours should be YOU''RE, not YOUR, Robin.
Well, I don't want to tell her what she is.
But no, what did I sell out? What do you talk? Please. I'm open to criticisms, but let's.
We're not making any money here.
Listen, as a learned doctor, I will give you my prognosis. For the rest of this show, I will take on the honorary term of Dr. Tyrus.
That's good. That's good.
Because anybody tells me I can't do something, I don't believe them. So I will sign up at the University of Phoenix as soon as this podcast is over, the show is over, and I will begin my medical journey. Just to let you know, Kimberly, you're wrong.
But so Dr. Tyrus, what
needs no boundaries, facts, science, or anything. It just sounds good. You're a sellout. Did you sell out white people everywhere by being educated and becoming a doctor and allowing a black man to come on your show and exchange ideas? Perhaps.
That's it. No wonder. Now I get it.
That's what it is. See? Racist. So, how dare you talk to one of them?
But what do you think?
Not even a doctor.
Oh, man. Dr. Tyrus, what do you think? And people are liking the Dr. Tyrus, by the way. What do you think is going on in people's heads where they can't hear but they think they've heard something, and then they're going to reach out and give you a piece of their mind. It's weird. It's so contrary to every instinct I have. If I see something I disagree with, I think about my own opinion. I think about whether it's something that I can adjust my opinion based on. And then the last thing in the world I would do is think, how can I get to that person to tell them how much I disagree with them and what a shithead they are? I can't imagine that. One of the reasons I can tell you is that it's too personal for them with no information.
people talk to you online like they talk to you, like they talk to someone they're in a relationship with for a long time and they're losing an argument and they just want to say things to hurt their feelings.
But
Like,
why?
you know, all the, you know, ever Ingrid and I fight, you know what I'm saying? I always say something like, well, why don't you go back with your rich friends? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
nothing to do, you know, her thing with me is like, hey, why don't you order a pizza? And I'm like, I'm just talking about whose turn it was to wash the dishes. Why are you bringing that up? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
it deteriorates fast.
it's the same thing. Like my daughter will say when I tell her something, I wish you weren't my dad, you know? And I'll be like, oh, I wish I wasn't either, you know? And then she's like, how could you say that? You said it first. That's the same way that people respond on social media, which you really need to look at their interpersonal skills and what is wrong that they're sitting at home waiting for Dr. Drew to say something they don't like to deem him a sellout. Now, the only other thing I can think is a sellout is as a doctor, perhaps maybe you started moonlighting as an actor and you sold out the medical profession.
Wait. Hold on. Kimberly responded, no, I want this. Hang on. She responded with, no, I want this disease taken seriously. Kimberly, I don't even know what you're talking about.
I never said, knock, knock, who's there, COVID. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no one's making jokes about COVID. But here, my voice in this is I'm speaking as somebody on the ground dealing with it. I don't have the answers. I ask questions, and for some reason, people ask my opinion, and I give it. And I also, at the same time, don't talk in absolutes. I don't have the cure. I'm telling you what I know that I need to do because I'm susceptible, because I'm Black. I'm 29, you know, I'm over 300 pounds. So I'm very concerned with COVID, and I have children, and I have a stepson who's a type 1 diabetic. So I'm as informed as a layperson could be. And I express and I ask, I'm literally on a show with a doctor asking questions. I think that's okay.
So she goes on, no one is using hydroxychloroquine. Well, that's not true. Doctors are using it. In fact, they're using it so much in one of the more recent New England Journal studies, they had trouble enrolling patients, hospitalized patients, because all the patients coming to the hospital were already on it. So doctors are prescribing it quite routinely. What's that?
Dr. Zelenko's using it.
Well, Zelenko's using it like crazy.
So I think the issue is that if you watch headlines, if you watch opinion news, which Kimberly and we're all, may I call you Kimberly?
Yes, Kimberly.
We all get caught up in it. We get caught up in watching news that is really a facade of opinion. Now, I don't think chloroquine cures COVID-19. I think the general consensus is it doesn't.
Well, let me refine. I'm going to refine what we actually know. Let me actually state it. What we know is, in very advanced disease, the outcomes were slightly worse than better. Definitely not to be used there. In hospitalized patients, generally all hospitalized patients, no adverse effect, no benefit. So they couldn't say whether it was good or bad. It was all the studies, though, on hospitalized patients were done without zinc. But the better part of valor is, okay, hospitalized patients, let's not use it there. Study came out a few hours ago that post-exposure, high-risk prophylaxis against post-exposure to the disease seems to have no significant benefit. Again, no harm. And without zinc. So we don't know whether, and zinc is thought to be the active agent, but I'm kind of suspicious. I'm going to say, okay, no hospitalized patients, and post-exposure prophylaxis is probably not going to work. But it's not designed for any of that. It's designed to be used when somebody gets sick the first day or two with zinc. That's it. That's where the studies need to be done.
Kind of
Now,
like Theraflu flu, right? Same type of thing.
Kind of like
Tamiflu. Tamiflu.
Kimberly's probably wondering this. What do you mean by study? What kind of study? A science, because you said the word study, and she's gonna say, well, what kind of study? Because they don't want facts.
It's not a peer review. It's not a this.
Yes, it's a study, which was in a laboratory with subjects and whatnot. This is what I'm talking about. Kimberly, you're a victim of when politicians talk about and opinion hosts on news networks talk about medications.
Yeah, that's
Chloroquine
right.
became a political weapon. We had the president who was saying, and his sides were saying that they thought it could be a cure. There are politicians scrambling for answers.
Yeah.
Then you had the other side of the aisle saying, no, it's horrible. It does nothing for you. It can kill you, because they are trying to scramble for their answers.
But
Neither
that
one
already to
cared
have
anything about the actual truth. They
Yeah.
were saying things to support their way of doing things.
and already that's politicized, and they have no business in science
Yeah.
being
And
political.
that's
But
what-
doesn't it
look
all
at-
kind of feel like Trump derangement syndrome? Like
Yeah, and like I said, the president does enough things on his own to where you realize that
Yeah.
he's a 60-plus-year-old man from an era that is vastly changed. His time, his way of thinking, same with Biden, same from anybody from that era, anyone in their late 60s and 70s have a different way of thinking than the new world does. And they say things based off their gut feeling, a little bit dipping in a little bit of stereotypes, and they're all looking for quick answers, and they want things solved right away, and they don't like to dilly-dally, as they would say, and they just want to get through it. That's a different way of saying things. So when you're arguing about chloroquine, you're part of the problem, because I don't know anything about it other than it was originally brought in to help with malaria. They saw some positive effects about it in this thing, but nothing's curing COVID because it's still here and doing quite a number on us. So I don't think anyone is saying it's a cure-all. I think you're getting caught up in the hype of the politicalization of medical issues, because
right.
what we should be arguing about, when you think about this, is how politicized everything is, Kimberly. Like, my son is a type 1 diabetic. Do you know the person who invented insulin gave it to the government for $1? That he literally could have been his entire family would have been a gazillionaire had they put a price tag on it, a quarter of what it is sold by pharmacies now. I am blessed to have a successful entertainment career, about 4 or 5 of them. Get fired a lot, but I've managed to bounce back and have a little money in the bank. And I'm arm candy for a millionaires. You know what I'm saying? Like, the brother's done well. Okay, so we are able to afford the ridiculous, and we have great insurance.
Yeah.
But we are able to afford the ridiculous cost, sometimes $1,100 for a re-up of insulin.
Yeah.
That is how bad and how politicized and how terrible things are with medicine, to where we never get the facts and we never look at the real issues, because we get caught up arguing over a pill that is literally can help some, can't help others, and they're still figuring it out. And you're calling somebody a sellout and pointing out that I'm not a doctor, which I don't believe I ever said I was. That to me is insanity.
Well, what about the
Kimberly.
doctors that are getting censored on Twitter and they're not even allowed to mention it without getting
Right. They're getting
their voices shut down?
That's the part that bothers me, is that they're having, just for bringing up an issue, people are being frozen out of Twitter. Let's see if I'm frozen out yet. I just printed the new article.
Oh,
No?
where'd you put it?
I just put it up on Twitter.
You did? What? You did what?
I said this is a good article.
No. Oh,
I'm gonna be
your
honest.
article?
The New England Journal article.
Oh, I thought you said your article. Your article's going to be on drdrew.com.
Okay. What's that, Tyrus?
Maybe this is the young pre-med student in me, but honestly, from the bottom of my heart, fuck Twitter, man. I don't care. Don't
But
care.
hang on. But
It's
I want to
run
go
by
back.
people's opinions, like everybody else. It's not a free speech format. If you're not saying what they want to say, they'll censor you. They should censor everybody.
Yeah.
I have people kill me. One guy said he was going to tear the skin off my daughter and eat it on social media. He wasn't censored. I mean,
Right.
to eat somebody's
The
child
terrorists
isn't-
are not censored. No, we've been
Yes.
shown that with
We've been
with YouTube.
Don't censor anyone, because guess what? We all can do what?
You can ruin somebody's career. or threaten their life,
Yeah, we've been
but
subjected to
you
that.
can't say, hey, I think
But
I would use
I want to
hydroxychloroquine.
dig a little deeper and try to understand why or what motivates somebody to go on.
Why don't we have Kimberly on as a guest
No,
next week,
Kimberly's
or the
good.
week after?
Kimberly hasn't backed down. No, we could. Kimberly has not backed down. Kimberly has joined in the conversation here, and everyone needs to lay off Kimberly a little bit because she has hung in and kept good faith in this conversation. So
I didn't take
I
her
think
off for trolling.
Let's
No.
Kimberly would be willing to come on, and we'll have her on, and we'll get her
But-
we'll give her a platform and see if we can change her mind that you're not a sellout.
No, she isn't the one that said the sellout. That was a different one, and that's the point. Kimberly didn't hear things, and she clarified, and so good, fine. But the one that said you're a sellout, what motivated? Oh, I know where I wanted to go. Think about this.
You might be a quack too, Drew. I've read that about 10,000 times.
Great. So Tyrus, back in the 60s and 70s, and Susan, you come back me up in this. Corolla and I have started to examine the Love Boat like some sort of anthropological time capsule. And so
That's a good show.
Well, Susan and I have assigned viewing every week, and then he wants me to investigate every actor and actress on it and where they ended up and what happened to them and blah blah blah. This is Adam's thing, and in those days, television performers, Gilligan's Island, I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, Love Boat, all those people were cartoon characters on television. They were cartoons. I remember I talked to Dawn Wells about this. She was Mary Ann, and she said she was having lunch with Natalie Schaefer, and they were there, and they noticed all of a sudden a crowd gathered. The Gilligan's Island had been on TV for 2 weeks, and Dawn says, "Oh my God, Natalie, you've had this huge film career, and now you're a cartoon character on TV, and people are fascinated to look at you." I'm wondering, and I think the shows were written as though these actors were cartoon characters. I think we kind of treated them like they were cartoon characters, or we thought about them that way. Whether or not people in the public now who have public discourse are thought of as cartoon characters. This happened to me with Steve-O too. Steve-O had a serious cardiac problem, and he was on Loveline one night, and people would call in and go, "Hey, Steve, sorry about your heart. Anyway, about my penis." Like, what? They and I thought, oh my God, they think of him not as a person. So somehow people that are out in the world are not people. Would you agree?
I think they're not people, or their reality of who they are is greater than what they are. Like, they don't think of them the same thing. They don't think Steve-O can get a cold. They don't think he's a real person. They don't have a good day. He's there for their entertainment. He's there to answer them. His real issues are irrelevant. So you're more of a puppet. You're like basically a toy for their amusement. And they don't give a what's going on in your life because you're there to entertain them.
Yep.
I mean, how many times have you been out to dinner where someone will be saying, "Hey, Dr. Drew, analyze me real quick. Like, I'm having a meal with my wife." Yeah, but seriously, so I got this problem, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that happened once or twice. With me, when the WWE was like, "Hey, Brodus Clay, can I get a Brotosaurus right now?" I'm like, "Bitch, I'm eating." No, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to with my family. They don't. Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't see them there. But anyways, can I get that picture? Because you don't matter, and that's what a lot of the guys in entertainment. I'm always on guys, especially guys who get into business and have a little bit of success.
Yeah.
It's fleeting and it's not real.
Yeah, right.
They don't go with you. When you leave the WWE, those sold-out arenas don't show up in your house. When you go to the smaller wrestling company, they're not waiting for you. They're looking at the curtains of the WWE going, "What's next? Who's next?" Because you don't matter. You just, in the real scheme of things, you're not real to them. That's why when they see you in real life and you don't have the hair dye in and you don't have the bright costumes and all that stuff, they're like, "That's it." They never meet your hero because he doesn't look the same on TV as he does.
Right. But then I'm wondering, that's in the flesh, but I'm wondering what social media, something is not right there. Something is really unhealthy that we have people.
Because for them, they think they have a front row ticket to your life. When they message you, when they text you, they're assuming that like you, like them, when they write you, you see it, read it, and respond. Because I wrote you. I'm the only one. No one. The world that you're in does vastly the same size as their world.
Yeah.
The only difference is you're on TV. They don't think that you have, 1 million followers. They don't think that you have a life of your own. You're the guy I see on TV, and I'm talking to you.
Right.
And my world is the same as yours. So you better talk to me back. So I'm going to call you names. Most of the time when someone's called me names and I've responded to them, it has literally made their day. Because now, like, I'm fighting with Tyrus on Instagram, and he's texting everybody. I remember one time this guy would not stop, and I said, listen, man, we got off on the wrong foot. Would you like to meet up sometime, grab some lunch, maybe get to know me? You know what I'm saying? And, we can hang out or something. He's like, oh, my God, that'd be so great. Could I bring my friends? You know what I'm saying? I was like, yeah, sure, set it up. And then
wow.
it was like, cool. And I'm thinking, like, next Friday. He's like, oh, yeah, I can do that. And then a few minutes later, I was like, no, you know what? I'm just going to block you. And then I blocked him. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that was my point. I was proving my point to him. Like, you hated me so much because I didn't answer you when you wanted me to. And that's just the delusion of social media. Everyone thinks they're a news reporter now. Everyone's a politician. Everyone's an actor. Everyone's a tough guy.
Yeah.
Because they have a cool picture of usually somebody else living their best life. That's the first thing I look at when someone sends a message and I see like a picture of Superman or Donald Trump or whomever it is. I'm like, okay, this person's delusional. Two
things I want to get to on the chat stream here. First, George Cushing, next global reset of capitalism. Tell us more what you mean there. Nicole Daggerman, how presumptive of what? What are you talking about? And then Monique made a great comment here. Let me read this to you. Socially artful responses emerge largely in the neural chatter between the orbital frontal cortex and the emotional centers like the amygdala that generate impulsivity. But the cortex needs social information, a change in tone of voice, vocal prosody, that kind of stuff, to know how to select and channel our impulses. In email, there's no channels for voice, facial expression, other cues from the person who will receive what we say. So what she's saying is that it is the disembodied aspect of social media that allows people this sort of lack of impulse control. And I think
because you don't have to pay the bill.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. I think that's exactly right, and I think that's one way. That's the way to frame it, Tyrus. But that's really interesting. So, hey, what do you? Before I'm going to see if George and some of these people answer my questions that I just asked to have responded. But in the meantime, what do you think about Portland?
Well, I really tried to the protesting. The federal agents, I just look at the political landscape and it's disgusting because sending federal troops in to protect federal property when clearly situation is showing that more bodies on the ground are needed, to be shunned and attacked by leadership is poor leadership. You're trying to score points with groups that don't want your points. They think you're part of the problem. That's why when the mayor went out there, he was booed. They don't feel he's done enough. They feel he's part of the problem. Protecting property and protecting the people in the neighborhoods who didn't necessarily want their neighborhoods to become the landmark for the protest. There's always room in this country for peaceful protests, but there's a difference between what's going on in Portland and what's going on. When you see fires, when you see fireworks being shot at law enforcement and all those things, and you can say, oh, it's only happening in a small venue. It shouldn't be happening at all. And if, just like, with COVID, one death's too many, one cop being blinded protecting our property is too many. Yeah. And if we have enough forces out there to curtail that stuff and allow them to have peaceful protests, not occupying parts of a town or blocks, that's different. That's not something that's okay in this country. So I think leadership has failed, and I'm not talking about Democrats or Republicans. I'm just saying if you're a governor and a mayor and you're only worried about the issues of the hundreds or let's say a couple thousand people in the streets opposed to your entire community, that's a problem because more bodies, and if it's handled the right way and the federal agents are met with respect by the governor, you can send a message that they're there to help.
Well, here's what I don't understand. I don't understand what the federal government is supposed to do when people take these oaths of high office. They put their hand on the Bible, and the first thing they do is, I swear to protect the federal properties wherever they, wherever they are. And Abraham Lincoln, because he took that vow very seriously, he sent provisions to Fort Sumter. He notified South Carolina. He said, I have an obligation, a sworn sacred vow to provision and protect federal properties. He sent provisions to Fort Sumter. South Carolina fired on him. That started the Civil War. He knew it would happen, but he could not violate his sacred oath to protect the federal properties. What are the federal officials supposed to do? I don't understand. That to me is confusing.
Riddle me this, Dr. Drew.
Yeah.
It all comes down to qualified immunity. If the governor or the mayor were financially responsible for the public destruction
Yep.
of the rioters, not
Good
the
point.
protesters,
Yep.
of the rioters at night, if they were going to get a bill
Yep, that's
for the
right.
damage of the city and the businesses lost and the injuries and the doctor bills and the people assaulted, they would have had the National Guard and feds there in a minute. As soon as the first firework went out, they would have made a call to the White House and said, I need help because I'm not going to be responsible financially or criminally for the city falling apart.
I've been saying this.
Guaranteed
Yeah.
it.
I've been saying this about the homeless thing in Los Angeles, that there are people dying on our streets by the extraordinary numbers every day. And somebody needs to be held accountable for that criminally, because they're allowing it to occur. It's negligence. It's active negligence. And I agree. I've been at this qualified immunity thing for about a year and a half. When did you get onto that?
When we talked about it.
Okay, good.
Qualified immunity, I literally thought was a term for like, just saying that that I had to like have good credit to get a cure or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? I can't get the shot. I have a 660 credit rating. I got to go. So, honestly, I keep it real. I never pretended to know everything. And when I first heard you say qualified immunity, I was like, what in the hell is that? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, hell no, that's wrong. That's
right.
not right. That's how they get away with all that stuff.
That's exactly
right.
right.
Order, all the corporations don't have qualified immunity.
You don't have it. I don't have
Stone sending their ass to jail.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's right. So yeah,
they made poor wires in the heart pacemaker, and the second guy who had it died. They all went to jail.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Good for you. Keep fighting that. So, my friend, I got to wrap this thing up. This has been interesting and fun to chat with you as always. Next week, your buddy Timph is going to sit in for you, I believe. Is that the plan?
Oh, I was just told you guys are in New York and your wife's laptop doesn't work.
Fair enough.
I just, I don't want to deal with the Zoom. If I can get it to work, but she'll be on at 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern, because Drew's got to try to figure out how to get to Fox News or Fox
11. I'm going to do
station.
Fox 11 from New York, and I have to get to a new studio that night. I got to
Fox
figure it all
News.
out.
I always say that. I'm
no,
sorry.
it's local Fox 11 in Los Angeles, and tomorrow Scott Adams comes in. Tyrus, if you want to call and ask any questions to Scott, I'll put you at the top of the line. He's always got. Scott. The reason I got involved with Scott Adams, he's a persuasion expert. He's a hypnotist, and he has ways of looking at things that I'm fascinated by it. So I was onto him long before he became a big figure in the political landscape. So
also, we'll be taking calls tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
With Scott. Probably near the end. I'm sure Drew and Scott will talk a lot at the beginning. So.
Yeah.
We got to take it to the next level. We got to start taking calls from Kimberly and people calling yourself.
Yeah, all right. Let's Susan, can we get Tyrus?
We can do that when we get back, Tyrus.
All right, when we bring you back, we'll do a call show.
I'll set up the phone
let's
lines.
do it.
All right, beautiful. And Kimberly, you can
Shout
call
out
us.
to, Kimberly, thank you, and whoever it was that called Dr. Drew
Shithead.
sellout show. So.
Mr. Shithead. Sorry.
I can't find that now. And let's see if anybody else has any other questions before everyone gets out of here. All right, let's. No, Kimberly can call in. Kimberly hung in well. I think she showed her
Kimberly,
mettle.
She's going to be like the new
well.
Karen on the
Yeah.
show.
New Karen.
Okay, Kimberly.
No. Kimberly was asking. She just was not.
Kimberly wasn't calling the police on me.
Exactly.
Karen always called the police.
enjoy your new tanks. They're beautiful. I mean, they really are. And so
Yeah,
congratulations on that.
that was a nice touch today.
And we will chat.
And good job on the weight loss. And we want you to be, healthy. It's a good time.
Oh, he's on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And his millionaire's friend is on him as well.
I know. It's great.
All right, guys.
Never thought of my life to be arm candy.
It's the best, man. It's the best. Congratulations.
You don't need abs, fellas, to be a sex symbol.
No,
So,
you got something.
both me, Chris Farley,
Yep, that's right.
can't think of anybody. Oh, Big Killer Mike. Although I'm more jacked than they are, but still, I'm not pointing fingers. But
All right,
shout
guys.
out to the big fellas.
Everyone's beautiful in their own way.
All right, we're wrapping this up. I got
Not all of us, but yeah.
All right, buddy. Take care of yourself. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. And we'll see you all tomorrow with Scott Adams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a deal. I didn't know you were gonna wrap up so fast.
That's what I.
Okay, but Uncle Bob, now we'll wrap up.
And Monique, great quote there. I saw that, and that neurobiology fascinates me. So maybe we'll do a show about that.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.